Hey everybody, so today I'm here to give you guys my 32-week pregnancy update, and I'm just going to jump right into it because I have a lot to fill you guys in on. The first thing is I know in my last pregnancy update, I know that I said that my belly was finally starting to look pregnant, and now at 8 months, I definitely do look pregnant. It also occurred to me that I haven't told you guys how much weight I've gained thus far. I don't think I've ever mentioned it, but at 32 weeks, which I'm technically 33 weeks now, but I've gained 19 pounds so far. And for comparison with my other pregnancies, Remy, my youngest, I gained 16 pounds with her, and with Sophie, my oldest, I gained 60 pounds with her. And I think the big differences between what I gained with Sophie versus what I've gained with Lexi and Remy is just the different circumstances with each of those pregnancies. I honestly believe, even though I was tested 2 different times for gestational diabetes, that I went undiagnosed with it. Reflecting back on the pregnancy, delivery, postpartum with Sophie, I honestly and truly believe that. So for that reason, I don't think my weight was managed that well. But yeah, so far with Lexi, I've gained more than with Remy, but obviously nowhere close to what I did with Sophie. And yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy with that. My doctors are happy with what I gained with Remy and what I gained with what I've been gaining with Lexi. And I am, technically overweight even before pregnancy. So when you are overweight, the expectations of what you should gain in a pregnancy are different than if you're just average size or if you're underweight, because underweight is totally different too. Also, at this point, you can see her serious movements from the outside. Like, I've been posting a lot on Instagram about the different stuff that she does at night because it just feels like sometimes she's trying to crawl out of me. At this point, I am very, very, very easily exhausted. Like, just grocery shopping or something like that kind of like takes it out of me for the rest of the day. Not to where like I absolutely won't do anything. It's just like I feel kind of tired and just kind of spent for the day. So yeah, we've officially hit that point at 32 weeks pregnant, which I feel like also I have 2 other kids that I'm taking care of throughout the day. So I just feel like the more you have going on in life while you're pregnant, it can be just exhausting by the end of it because your body's also exhausted as well. And I am getting a lot more sensitive to heat, although in my defense, in Ohio, we've been having crazy humidity spikes here. Like, just yesterday morning, Mark was looking at the forecast for a couple of days from now, and he said it was supposed to be 91% humidity in the morning. And it's just like, that's nuts. I just feel like it also exhausts me being out in it. I mean, I'll have my hair tied up, make sure that I've got like breathable clothes on and I'm not like, layering a whole bunch of stuff. And I still feel like after a couple hours out in the heat, I'm like, I need to take a break. Realizing that taking like a 10-minute break in the AC is completely fine, and like, I'm also sharing this body with another human being, so things are cramped, things are extra hot. So the heat is getting kind of intense, but I'm trying to find my ways around it, and I feel like I'm just starting to enter that uncomfortable stage in general where like she's running out of room, which then makes you feel very uncomfortable, and her movements can sometimes be uncomfortable and stuff like that. But I mean, that's part of the end of pregnancy. Your body can only stretch and give so much, and there's only so much room. So it's gonna start getting to that point, but I feel like we're starting to reach that. And also, I'm still having the fibromyalgia pain. Again, it's not consistent. It's every once in a while, things like that. And I am having trouble sleeping sometimes at night, but again, kind of comes and goes. Some nights I sleep just fine, some nights I can't sleep at all. And also, my nausea has returned out of nowhere. A lot of you were concerned on Instagram when I mentioned nausea and dizziness, and even here on the community tab too, because I did let you guys know it affected me getting work done one day, and that's why I told you guys. But it was something that a lot of you wanted me to talk to my doctor about, and I made sure that they know all my symptoms at every doctor's appointment, and everything's normal. They also do a urine analysis every time I'm there as well, and everything's looking good. It's just, I think that day it was a combination of a lot of different things, and now my nausea is just nausea by itself, although my headaches have also returned as well. So I don't know, maybe it's just maybe we're revisiting the first part of pregnancy at the last part of pregnancy, but I'm just trying to do what I can. It's making it difficult to eat what I need to eat given the gestational diabetes that I have. You know, if you're nauseous, it's like, you know, you don't want to eat certain stuff, or other things kind of turn you off, and just kind of all that kind of business. And it gets hard when you can already eat so many things. But I am trying to do my best and find ways around the nausea. And it's not all day, it's just really weird times of days. At first I thought it was just afternoons, but now I'm starting to get it at night too sometimes, and it just kind of varies from day to day, honestly. But I am figuring a way around it most of the time. And given what I've already mentioned, I do feel like if I do take it easy at home and just kind of relax all day, I actually feel really good. Like, I don't honestly have any complaints. It's just, you know, going outside, doing stuff, being out in the heat, those kind of things. I feel like that's when I normally start to get exhausted, and exhausted kind of just, you know, wears out your body, and then you start getting aches and pains and stuff like that. But if we have like a low-key day at home, I'm typically, you know, not running into really anything. It's normally a pretty good day. You know, I tell you guys the aches and pains just so I'm honest in what I'm going through, but it's like none of it should come off as complaining. You know, pregnancy isn't a walk in the park. It's not, you know, always super easy and always rainbows and sunshine and butterflies. So I'm trying my best to tote that line of being honest without seeming like I'm complaining and stuff. So hopefully that's coming across. But now more into like the doctor stuff. I did want to update you guys on the gestational diabetes things. I did get a lot of questions as to like what the meter looked like in my arm that the clinic had me wear. It was for 2 weeks in the back of my arm. It did not hurt whatsoever. I actually forgot to grab a picture, so I'll just like insert one right here. And if you have been around for any length of time, you know that I have a thing about skin. I don't like it being punctured, torn, cut, stuff like that. It freaks me out. It's why I have a problem with like, not needles per se, it's just the fact that it's piercing your skin is what grosses me out. So the idea of a meter staying in my arm for 2 weeks was like, oh, that sounds so nasty to me, and I really thought I'd have a hard time with it, but honestly, it did not hurt whatsoever. It hurt worse them getting it out than it did going in. I didn't feel anything. You know, I would say putting it in, taking it out, everything in between, all of that hurt less than a finger prick that I do 4 times a day for gestational diabetes anyways. But I did wear that in my arm for 2 weeks, and basically it was taking my sugar every few minutes, and it was logging, well, not logging, it was just keeping a hold of that information. And then when you go in to check with your doctors, they can take the data off of that, and they can print out this whole bunch of information, which it puts into more of like a line graph, and you're able to see how your numbers are doing with where they should be. And like I said, I wore it for 2 weeks, and my numbers were really great. They were where they were supposed to be, and that made me feel really good because, you know, taking my sugar 4 times a day, of course, that lets me know that things are generally on track, but for something to keep tracking your sugar like that, the more I thought about it, it was like, it's gonna let me know about all the times I wouldn't be testing and how things are going in between that. And it was really nice to know my body, my diet, everything I'm doing is keeping everything right where it should be. And honestly, I met with the dietitian, and when she looked over my numbers and she looked over my food log and my personal finger prick logs, she was like, you are doing so good, I don't even want to do anything differently. And that made me feel extra good because I felt like, okay, she's got the confidence in me to do this. I'm doing the right thing. I've got this. So I did go to the clinic for 3 weeks, just checking in with them going over the numbers, making sure everything was going okay. And then they released me from their care, and they said, you know, unless you need something, you don't have to come back. So my OB has been checking my numbers every 2 weeks when I go in for just my regular prenatal visits. He's been really happy with my numbers. Now my fasting have been out of range, but he's not concerned with it, and he honestly just wants me to keep doing what I'm doing. Every single one of my numbers after meals has been perfect. They are well under even the threshold, and honestly, with keeping a log, my fasting is not out of range every single morning or even most mornings. It's less often it's out of range than it is more often. So for that reason, we're not really doing anything, and we're just kind of keeping things the same. So right now I am still diet controlled. I am testing 4 times a day, which is fasting, 2 hours after breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So that's what I'm doing, and things have been going well, and I feel like, I don't know, like I said, I've been gaining a healthy amount of weight, been following my diet, my sugars are good, everybody's happy, and we also did have our first growth scan, which was at 32 weeks and 4 days, I think I was, and she's looking great too. You know, my numbers being good and everybody being happy with them and how things are working is great, but I was honestly not necessarily nervous or worried, but I was anxious to see how she was doing as well, because that is a big part of gestational diabetes, is how baby is doing. So for that reason, I was very anxious to see how she was, and she's great. She is measuring a week ahead, and even though I know this, my doctor reassured me 1,000 times that everything is okay. He would actually prefer her to be a week ahead rather than her be a week behind. And given the fact that I do make bigger babies in general, Sophie was 10 pounds 4 ounces when she was born, and Remy was 8 pounds 9 ounces. So I don't have small babies. Like, even with Remy, when I was diet controlled and on medicine and everything for my gestational diabetes, and it was very well under control, she was still 8 pounds 9 ounces. And that is kind of in line with our genetics, if that's even a thing. I'm not sure if that plays a role in how much your babies weigh, but both me and my sister, I think we were around 8 or 9 pounds. Also, Mark's side of the family, a lot of him and his siblings were around that kind of weight too. So, you know, we just don't make really small babies or anything, and everything was looking good with her and her amniotic fluid. For some reason, that's been something I've been thinking about a lot more often. I don't know if it's just because I've been hearing about it a lot from other moms having complications with it, but I was kind of worried about her amniotic fluid, but she's got a perfect amount, not too little, not too much. She's looking great, but the only thing about the ultrasound was the fact that we saw she did flip herself to breech. She was head down, but she's actually more transverse than she is breech technically. She has her head over on the left side, right underneath my ribs, and she's got her feet, like, one's on my cervix and the other is more towards my hip. So she's actually kind of diagonal, but she can get entirely transverse, which is what she was at the ultrasound. And I don't know if it's because she like flipped herself breech and now she keeps trying to flip herself back head down, or I don't know what's going on in there. But I will say, for all of my babies, before they were head down, they loved to be transverse. Like, for most of my ultrasounds with Sophie, Remy, and Lexi, before they were head down, they were always transverse, which just basically means from side to side. And it can get uncomfortable, but like I said, my kids, I don't know, just prefer that way for whatever reason. But with both Sophie and Remy by this time, they were both head down. And like I said, Lexi was, but now she has flipped herself kind of transverse breech, whatever you want to call it. She's not head down either way. So there is that, but it doesn't matter. I had people ask me if I'm going to try and flip her, and honestly, I'm not worried about it because it's not necessary. I will be having a C-section. It might be more comfortable for both her and I if she was head down, because that's kind of a, you know, the baby's natural position if she was where she should be. However, for my delivery, it doesn't matter. So for that reason, I'm not gonna really worry about it. And if she flips, she flips. And if not, then they're going to be pulling her out feet first. But it was kind of funny because I was telling Mark, I thought something was different because I feel like I've had a lot less rib action lately and I could breathe. And I also have been feeling kicks really low, like felt like she was going to come out low, and also a lot of personal attacks on my bladder. But it was kind of funny because she was checking my cervix at the ultrasound. She's like, oh, there's a foot. And I was like, that feels about right. Yeah, that feels right. And like I said, the other foot is more towards my hip, which I can feel 100% because it's just always there, just kicking my hip bone. It's such a weird feeling because, like I said, by this time with the other two, they were head down, so a lot of the movement was either like really low or really high. But with her and her being transverse, it's a lot on my sides more than it is top or bottom, which is kind of interesting. And she was measuring around 4 pounds 8 ounces, so there is that. And I will be having growth scans again, one more at 35 weeks and then another at 37. Yes, I believe that's what it is. Could be wrong. I also have biophysical profiles between those as well. So I have a couple weeks of like no appointments, and then I'm going to start getting into basically weekly ultrasounds and weekly midwife visits. So it's not going to be too much at first. With the past few scans, it has been a lot because I've had to go in to get my ultrasound one day and come back another to talk to my OB because he's not there on the same day that the ultrasound tech is. However, now that I'm going back to my midwives, I can see them right after having the ultrasound done, so it's like just one visit, so that'll be nice. But also, I did talk to my OB because I wanted to talk about anesthesia. For those of you who might be new to my channel or my videos, I have a very strong reaction to my anesthesia from my C-sections in the past. It starts off in recovery. I will get so itchy on my face. I mean, the point of itching is like I get like it's all consuming, honestly. They'll give me a wet washcloth and I'm just sitting there rubbing my face, and Mark will have to take it away from me or I won't stop and I'll just rub my face raw. That's how bad it itches. And once they give me Benadryl, then I'm okay and the itching stops. Once I get into my own room after recovery, that's when the vomiting starts, and it can last anywhere from a few hours to several hours. And with Remy, it was worse than it was with Sophie. It lasted longer. I felt like it was a tad bit more violent. Not sure why, can't really speak to that, but all I know is that it's a really strong reaction, and eventually everything's fine. You know, like typically by the end of the first night, I'm completely okay. Like by 9-10 o'clock, I'm all right. But it's before that, that first day, it's really like I have a hard time remembering those very early hours after surgery. All I can really remember is just all the constant throwing up, being hot, being itchy, those kind of things. And with my old OB, she said that we would reevaluate my anesthetic when the time came and see if we could do things differently. So I wanted to bring that up to my current OB because I did have to switch them. He said that he has a couple ideas as to what could be possibly causing it. Now there is a chance that it's just part of my genetics. It's just how I react to it, which honestly I think is a strong to fair chance because my oldest daughter Sophie had the same reaction to when she was under for getting tubes in her ears. She obviously was not on narcotics, and the only kind of similarity is just the fact that we both had anesthesia, but we also had different types. So for that reason, I'm kind of keeping my hopes low that it'll be different this time around. I mean, if it happens, it is what it is. He said he thinks that it could possibly be either my blood pressure getting too low, the narcotics, because typically with most spinals, they do give you a narcotic when you do get a spinal block. And that's just to make sure that you have long-term pain relief. So when you come out of surgery, you're not needing meds right away. So there are a couple things that we can try to do differently this time around to see if it helps with it. And we're going to meet with the anesthesia team closer to delivery and see what they think as well, because obviously they're the people who deliver that. But other than that, the only thing I have to say is one of my midwives is leaving, and she's leaving for such a good reason, and I'm like so proud that I got to even be one of her patients because of where she's going and what she's doing. But I have also met with the other midwife before, and I really like her as well, so I'm not having any kind of problems with it or issues with it. And I also do see my OB from time to time. We also did just have our baby sprinkle, which was super fun. It was a great day. lots of good food, everything like that, and it was just really, really awesome. It felt like a full circle moment. Something I always look forward to each pregnancy is, you know, having that day and celebrating and just everything about it. It's just awesome. But, you know, after last year, it was just kind of like, I don't even know if I'll ever be in the position to have one again. And it just felt like a very, like I said, full circle moment where you're like, even more grateful and thankful than you already are on a daily basis for everything that you have. So it was just an awesome, awesome day. Also, to kind of touch on some things moving forward, I am going to be doing one last pregnancy update, which is insane for me to say. I'm going to be doing one last pregnancy update at 39 weeks. So obviously several weeks away, but unless something crazy happens between then, I'll probably just save it for that, especially because of my appointments coming up. It's going to be harder and harder to film because those appointments are taking place in the evening, like later in the evening, so it kind of throws a wrench in our whole day and our workup, so you're going to have to excuse that. But yeah, I will be doing that, and I will also be doing a baby haul, one last one of just things that I've bought or stuff that you guys have sent us or people that we know have sent us, things I got at my baby sprinkles, stuff like that. And then I'm also going to be doing like what we wiped off our registries and show you guys that stuff as well. I will be taking around 2 to 3 weeks off of YouTube. I haven't decided entirely. I'm leaning more towards 3 because, like I've mentioned, when I give birth, the girls are going to be starting preschool literally the week after. So I feel like to give myself some even more time to adjust with everything that's going on, it might be closer to 3 weeks, but you guys will have pre-recorded videos. So you guys are not going to miss any content. It's just going to be me taking a break from making like current videos and posting them right after I make them. And also, I have not mentioned the specific day that our C-section is on social media. That's intentional. I just kind of want to keep that to ourselves. I don't know, like the more people who know, the more it makes me anxious about the day. So I just try to kind of keep it to myself, and only people who need to know. But I will say that the day of, I will be posting updates and pictures and stuff like that. So I would check Instagram. I'm going to try my best to remember to use YouTube. Back when I delivered Remy, we did not have the community tab, so there was no like stories, there was no pictures or updates or quick little things I could give you guys. It was a lot easier to use Instagram. I'm more in the hang of using Instagram, my business one, as like a way of quickly communicating to you guys. So if you don't follow me over there, I would, if you want to see those updates for when we deliver, baby, everything, see how we're doing. And I will try my hardest to remember to use the community tab as well to also keep you guys in the loop over on here in case you don't have Instagram, because I know not everybody has every social media platform. But those are kind of the things I want to mention and prepare you guys moving forward. I'm going to give you guys a belly shot, and then I'm going to answer 5 questions that I got off of Instagram. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see since I'm wearing all black, but there she is. We are to the point where shirts don't cover the whole bump anymore, but it is what it is. Here we are. And yeah, so her head is over here, her feet are down here, and yeah, that's what we're working with at 32, 33 weeks pregnant. It just looks so silly because my shirt does not reach. You are gonna hear a lawnmower in the background. My neighbor just started mowing, so let's wrap this up. But I did ask you guys over on Instagram because I forgot to ask before filming this video for questions for it, so sorry guys. I typically try to pull from YouTube and Instagram, but I forgot, so I'm going to look through these. I'm going to pick 5. So the first question is, did you pack your hospital bag yet? Kind of yes and no. I've been buying stuff for the hospital bag. I've also been putting stuff in, washing it, clothes, if you know, whatever. I've been stuffing it in the hospital bag, but I have not actually packed it. So there is stuff in the hospital bag, but not everything, and it's not organized or like put together well. I am going to be doing a video on that. I'm basically going to open it up with you guys and organize it and show you everything that we're bringing. So that video will be coming, but kind of yes and no. I honestly want to get it ready this time around, especially since our hospital is like an hour away. This time it's not as easy to get to our house as where we delivered with our two oldest, because they were 15 minutes away from home. If we needed something, no big deal. But with it being so far away, it's kind of making me a little bit more anxious this time around. The next question is, will Mark be taking off work and will he stay with you at the hospital? Yes and yes. Mark is taking, I believe, two and a half full weeks, I believe, is what it ends up being, of work off. And he will also be staying with me at the hospital. He has stayed the entire length of the hospital with each delivery, and that's exactly how we like it. So he will be staying with me day in, day out. And my mom is actually the one who takes the girls and watches them. She takes days off of work and she's just grandma 24/7 while we stay up in the hospital, which we greatly appreciate. The girls love and look forward to, and I'm sure my mom is exhausted by the end of it, but we very much appreciate it. So she is going to be doing that. The girls will go stay at her house for however long we end up being there. The next question is how will you arrange 3 car seats? And I think I'm going to be including this in kind of like a baby prep video that you guys will probably see when I'm on maternity leave as like a pre-recorded video, because it's something I get asked a lot. I've mentioned it a lot, what our plan is over on Instagram, but I still like continually get that question. And I can understand why, because the 3 car seat thing can be tricky, and just depending on what seat you have and what kind of car you own and the car seat setup of the car, it just can be a lot. So I understand that, but we do have captain's chairs, which in my opinion makes it far easier to figure out the configurations. So I will be including that specifically in like a baby prep video where you can see me get other stuff ready for baby as well. But we are basically going to move the 2 oldest girls to the back into the 3rd row. Lexi will be in one captain's chair, and there will be a captain's chair open with nobody in it. The next question is, what if you get pregnant despite your tubal and Mark's vasectomy? And this is something that I feel like a fair amount of people have been asking me. And to them I say, then I get pregnant. I'm not having a tubal ligation. He's not having a vasectomy because we cannot financially, emotionally, mentally, physically not take care of another child. It's because we don't want to go through the trying to conceive process again. I know tubal ligations and vasectomies in themselves aren't 100% guaranteed to work. They do have failure rates, and even together they have failure rates. So I know it's not 100% bulletproof, but at the same time, with having a tubal and also having a vasectomy, I'm not going to be testing. I'm not going to be worried about if I was pregnant. So if I got pregnant despite that, it's not something that we don't want. It is something we want. We just don't want the process of getting there. That is emotionally too difficult for us to go through. So if we just end up being pregnant and have a successful pregnancy, then it is what it is. I just feel like that's kind of an impossible situation, because even if that was the reason we were getting a tubal or a vasectomy, I mean, you don't know what you're gonna do with that situation until you're in it. So I can't say for sure how I would feel even if we didn't want to have more kids. And the next and last question is, what is the age difference between all 3 girls and how do you like it? This one's a little bit of a difficult one. So I'm just going to do this from the time Lexi will be born, because I think that's going to make it easiest. Sophie will be 4, but nearly 5. And then Remy will be very close to being 3.5. And Lexi will obviously be just born. So between Sophie and Remy, there's a 1.5 year difference. And between Remy and Lexi, there's going to be about a 3.5 year difference. Between Sophie and Lexi, there's going to be an almost 5-year difference. How do I like that? It's complicated. If you had asked me at the beginning of my pregnancy how I liked it, I would say it made me really sad, just because we kind of felt like we did want to have our kids closer together than what it ended up being. But I mean, it's not like you get to pick and choose, and everything that we went through, we're grateful for what we have. But it did make me a little sad because, you know, ever since like 2 years ago, Sophie has been asking for another sibling. So it was just like, I'm finally giving it to her like 2 years later, but it made me emotional, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But now, being at the end of my pregnancy, with Sophie being already over 4.5 years old, she'll be really close to being 5 when Lexi is born. I really, really like the age she's at. You know, she wants to be hands-on, but she can understand if I explain that she can't be, or, you know, she is a great helper, and I just feel like she's going to be able to understand things really well, opposed to when Remy was born and she understood none of it. It just was what it was. It was her reality. But with Remy, I think it'll make an interesting age difference because I don't really know what it's like. I feel like she'll be somewhere in between where Sophie was with her and where Sophie's going to be with Lexi. You know, I feel like she might be able to understand some stuff, but she's gonna have difficulties, you know, learning and understanding other things. So there is that, but I don't know. I just feel like I can't complain. I finally got what we were after for, you know, 2 years. So I just kind of feel like it is what it is, you know. I, before everything, would have loved for them to be closer together, but now I can also see the upsides and the positives of them being a bit more spaced out. I don't know. I don't know that I have a preference, honestly, but I guess I would say that I'm happy with how things are and the age difference, and I don't think it's anything too crazy either way and not too hard for us to handle. But yeah, that is everything for this very lengthy update. Hopefully I can get it edited down for you guys. If you guys have any questions for my last and final pregnancy update, leave them down in the comments below because I will be pulling from there. Make sure you upvote any questions you see, so that one can definitely be picked because I will pick the most upvoted one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.